That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about Nuremberg. This sophomore film directed by James Vanderbilt. Guess who he's related to? That premiered at the 2025 Toronto International Film Festival, where apparently it was applauded for many minutes. Sony Pictures Classics is releasing it November 7th, 2025.
Do you know this director's first film?
Truth from 2015, starring Cate Blanchett as Mary Mapes and Robert Redford as Dan Rather, which was also, based on a true story kind of thing that was kind of hackneyed and ham-fisted and kind of underutilized the top-tier performers that were at the director's fingertips.
What is Nuremberg about? A World War II psychiatrist evaluates Nazi leaders before the Nuremberg trials, growing increasingly obsessed with understanding evil as he forms a disturbing bond with Hermann Göring.
Evil. Just go read Hannah Arendt, okay?
What is your pull quote?
Formidably marred by a script blundering its scope and perspectives, while a ruinous performance from Rami Malek assists in malignantly sabotaging the purposes of reenacting the first trial at Nuremberg, this film plays like a courtroom TV drama that, based on its cautious approach, believes its audience can't handle the truth.
Mine. A scattershot, shockingly unserious effort that plays more like an off-Broadway bromance gone wrong than a reckoning with evil.
I mean, it could have been a drunk history.
This movie was the fool, and I think Rami Malek is ruinous in this.
Yes, I did not believe him as a 1940s psychiatrist in the least. Not 1 second is he believable.
The film opens May 7th, 1945, the last day of World War II, and we see some U.S. soldiers. I can't even say they capture. Hermann Göring surrenders to these soldiers. And Hermann Göring is played by Russell Crowe. Then we see that a bunch of Nazi leaders have been captured. Then we have Michael Shannon playing Justice Robert Jackson. And he has the thought that he wants to take these Nazi leaders to trial. And his assistant...
I wasn't quite sure.
I don't know who this lady was.
Who else he was to him. They seem romantically involved, played by Ren Schmidt, yes.
But she's explaining in broad strokes
to us
and the audience the challenges of attempting this, and you'd be setting precedent, just all the obstacles that could occur to make this a failure, and not that anyone would even allow you to do it. And then we get like a 10-minute montage.
Yeah, of the construction of what would be an allied tribunal.
So convincing other nations, getting the Pope to co-sign, which we can get back to.
And that getting the Pope to co-sign to pressure the American president to agree to as well.
And then we end up in Nuremberg, a German city that was devastated during the war, and they've decided that they're going to use a space because it's adjacent to a jail cell that has space for thousands of prisoners. But then we're told, we don't need all this space because we're just going to do this couple of dozen people first.
This is the first, so it's about the first trial. So the more famous film, Judgment at Nuremberg by Stanley Kramer, which I also recommend seeing over this film, if you want to learn anything, that is about the judges that are being tried. So this is after the first trial.
But we're told, let's not even worry about the thousands of people, because if we can't convict this first group, then there's no point. So then we get, Rami Malek is this military psychiatrist who gets brought in. And I'm not quite sure, this is based on a book written by the actual psychiatrist this story is depicting.
Douglas Kelley.
But I'm not quite sure
what his qualifications are.
Or, because my understanding is that he's supposed to confirm that these people are fit to stand trial.
Yeah.
But then the movie quickly becomes this bromance between this psychiatrist and Hermann Göring.
Yeah. Where essentially Douglas Kelley becomes a Nazi sympathizer in ways that the film tells us but doesn't really explain.
Well, we need to get back to that because Then you have Leo Woodall playing this sergeant who's an interpreter. So he's basically attached at the hip to Rami Malek's character, interpreting for him. Even though Rami Malek, as this psychiatrist, knows that Hermann Göring can speak English, he's saying that once this man trusts me, he'll just speak to me in English and I won't need you. But yeah, we spend over an hour with these two. The psychiatrist starts a friendship with Hermann Göring's wife and kid because he's delivering letters.
Who are in hiding. The authorities don't know where they are.
I'm so confused with the logistics. I'm so confused with the amount of access this doctor has to this, Hermann Göring is like the top, since Hitler's dead, he's like the top person. And you have this psychiatrist who, the man running the prison is...
John Slattery, the colonel.
The colonel, who doesn't even like the psychiatrist.
On site.
On site. But somehow has full access, day and night, to this man. So confusing. But we don't get to the trial until the 90-minute mark.
This movie is a little over 2.5 hours, yeah.
And then it's not until the 2-hour mark that we get to the inevitable climax, which is Hermann Göring taking the witness stand and being interrogated by Justice Jackson, Michael Shannon's character. And it is so anticlimactic because he flubs it. And this is after he's been given insider information from the psychiatrist, which we need to get back to.
Well, I'm not sure how helpful that information was, but or at least the way that it's constructed.
That's my problem, is that's why it's so anticlimactic, because to any thinking person, it's obvious that this is a narcissist, and if you question him, it'll probably cause him to. But you need to have your shit together.
Right.
And Justice Jackson messes that up. And so it would seem like, oh, well, Hermann Göring's going to get away with what he did. But then we have Richard E. Grant.
Playing Sir David Maxwell Fyfe.
Who has his one moment to shine, where he says, well, before we let the witness leave, can I just ask a couple questions? And basically gets Hermann Göring to admit that, even though you want to pretend like you didn't know all these people were killed at these concentration camps.
Yeah, because his argument is that they were labor camps. They weren't killing people. That he had no knowledge of that, yeah.
But Richard E. Grant's character gets him to admit that he was in charge during those years. So you were in charge, but you claim you don't know. So let's say you didn't know. But knowing what you know now, would you still support Hitler? And this man says yes. So of course, gets sentenced to death with the rest of them.
By hanging.
Except that Hermann Göring decides to end his own life with a cyanide capsule.
Which he's been keeping hidden secret somewhere.
In that little portrait he had of his wife. That's
right,
where he had it. We get back to Leo Woodall's character, Sergeant Howie Triest, who the gag for his character, because everyone thinks he's German because he's blonde hair, blue eyed, and speaks perfect German. And he's the one translating for all these Nazis. So they're a little more open to him. The gag is he's actually Jewish. He had to flee where he was to go to America.
Holland.
And in the process, lost his sister. His parents were killed in the camps. So he's very invested in making sure these people are convicted. And he says to us, there's one person in particular, Stryker, who he says, I cannot wait until this trial is over and that man's about to get killed, executed. I'm going to tell his ass I was a Jew. And that man starts crying like a little bitch when Stryker does when it's time for him to go get hanged. And the sergeant doesn't tell him, which I was confused by.
No, because I think the messaging of this movie, one of them is, when they go low, we go high. The sergeant learns that he is better than that, seeing the man's humanity and trying to preserve his own dignity by not stooping that low by saying that. But
and the final moments of the film are time has passed and Douglas Kelley has now written a book.
And he's a drunk.
And he goes on some U.S. radio show and basically says that the ideology of the Nazis, you can find that everywhere. There's hatred everywhere. And if we don't learn to recognize it, it's just going to proliferate.
So one of those other hosts on that show needs to be like, just spout back Sinclair Lewis's "It Can't Happen Here" to him, but because that's basically.
So of course he gets kicked off the radio, and he's told, "You want to sell books? Don't bash America." And then we find out that Mr. Kelley ultimately committed suicide and had only written the one book
with cyanide, like his hero Hermann Göring.
Okay.
This movie, it's so goring.
If we had to focus on Douglas Kelley, I feel like we needed to either focus on him finding these people mentally competent to stand trial, combined with the legal process. Like, how are we going to approach this? This is unprecedented. I thought that's what we were going to get. Or, like you already mentioned, there's a sense that people, which is kind of shocking to me, like people involved in this trial, weren't aware of how bad things were in the concentration camps. Mm-hmm. And that's why Mr. Kelley seemed to sympathize and connect with.
He's easily charmed by Göring, and as played by Russell Crowe, I guess you can see where maybe that cult of personality is something that could win certain types over. But the film is set up like parallel tracks with Justice Jackson and Douglas Kelley, and they're both ultimately men that sacrifice kind of their career goals in order to have this common accomplishment at Nuremberg. Because Justice Jackson kind of gives up this seat on the Supreme Court.
Well,
and Kelley was trying to publish a novel, and he gives all his secret notes over to Justice Jackson.
Justice Jackson's intentions were more clear.
Yes.
Because he says, based on the events of World War I, we just gave the Germans more fuel to come back even harder. Mm-hmm. So this time around, they need to be found guilty so that we can put an end to this.
Right.
Like, that's his ideology. So I feel like his intention, I feel like we should have just focused on Justice Jackson.
Well, I think the film, and I don't know if it's because of like Rami Malek demanded that, because he's going full like Tom Cruise and A Few Good Men, kind of like white knighting, but also with suspicious motivations.
Right, because he does say, I'm going to write a book. Mm-hmm. So I understood that like he's here because of the professional opportunity. But then he's also saying, like, I took an oath as a healthcare provider to be fair and blind to whatever and just do my job. But like, maybe like you said, because it's Rami Malek and this performance, and I know I didn't like him in that other movie, The Amateur, but I just think he's so distracting on screen. I don't know what the actual Mr. Kelley was like, but the gesticulating and it's just too much for me.
The dialogue, there's a lot working against it besides Rami Malek, I think, which just kills me. Like, the headlines about this film when it premiered tip were like, it got the longest standing ovation at the festival ever. It's like people clapping because the cast is there means nothing. When will that stop being a marker for something supposedly being good? I don't know. And also, a gala presentation at TIFF is usually a sign of something's quality as well, I find.
Speaking of the cast, in addition to Rami Malek, we have Tom Hanks' kid in here.
Oh yeah, Colin in a ham cameo. Because he's a doctor that's brought in as for a second opinion, because one of the Nazi personnel that is on hand kills himself. He hangs himself ostensibly in his cell. And Slattery, the colonel, is like, how did Douglas Kelley not realize that this was going to happen? And it seems so obvious because this Nazi is like, it's, you know, if you've ever dealt with somebody that has suicidal ideations or depression issues, it's like the calm before the storm is they seem perfectly fine and happy because they've resolved to do it. And the fact that Douglas Kelley doesn't see that behavior in this man is crazy.
Well, what's more crazy is they acknowledge that these people are on suicide watch. We've removed all contraband from their cells so they don't attempt. When people are on suicide watch, you have 24-hour watch. The fact that the colonel's mad that the psychiatrist, who cannot be in 22 places at once, would somehow have stopped this, to me is also a little crazy. You should have had guards at every cell watching these people 24/7. I just don't think that, I don't know what this film's trying to do, because as a procedural for these trials, it's weak. Mm-hmm. As a character study of this doctor and what his intentions were, it's weak. As an exploration of this trial and like Justice Jackson and what he thought he was doing and all the, because this could have made a really slick like House of Cards type thing where he's trying to convince the other nations. I mean, we get a scene where they're like, Russia's in.
Yeah, what? It's not going to work. You never get Russia. The next scene, Russia's in. Yay, great. And also like as an existential exercise of what Kelley's aim is, like he wants to dissect evil. And again, this is, you know, in retrospect, we have, I know I've already mentioned her, but Hannah Arendt, whose Eichmann in Jerusalem is that's where we get the term banality of evil. And because Eichmann's defense was that I was just following orders like he was a goddamn robot. So, and again, just go watch the Stanley Kramer classic, or there's a television film with Robert Duvall, The Man Who Captured Eichmann. I feel like that also kind of succinctly gets into the meat of what is going on here.
The editing is diabolical. It does keep the pace going. It's a long movie, and it didn't feel as long as it was because these cuts are crazy.
But it also, with the lack of characterization and kind of the posturing, I think it could have been a lot shorter.
Sure. In my pull quote, I mentioned that it's like an off-Broadway production because I think the casting, the dialogue, it does feel hammy to me.
Or the producers.
Okay, let me get through these notes quick. One of the first tasks we see Dr. Kelley perform is showing these Nazis like Rorschach blot tests. I thought that was kind of silly.
You see, I think we don't even need that whole introduction of Rami Malek into the milieu. Is like, we should just get to right before the trial that we can get a sense can be built about how difficult it was to get to that moment. And it's like, what is this doctor still doing here? And who's his allegiance with? Because the scene where Michael Shannon clandestinely meets with Rami Malek, and it convinces him, like, dude, I need your help. I need your notes. I need your background so I can have an edge because these people have to be convicted.
Right.
We needed we needed a better sense of the moral gray zone that this Douglas Kelley has allowed himself to be enveloped in.
Every scene with Rami Malek I thought was so unserious. His character does magic. Oh, speaking of that,
cheap card tricks, if you call
speaking of that, there's this beautiful British woman, like this femme fatale, who just pops in and out of the movie like a little leprechaun, I guess. And
well, press badges will do that for you.
But I didn't realize she was pressed. So it's like, who's this beautiful woman who keeps trying to push up on Dr. Kelley? And then we find out that she's a reporter. And towards the end of the story, Dr. Kelley gets drunk at a bar and tells this woman a bunch of details he shouldn't have told her, and then it's headline news the next day, and that's what gets him fired.
Discharge, yeah. But we don't know what he says to her. But that again, that could have been a scene which really would really allow for his internal turmoil about how he feels about this man once he's learned about what actually happened in the camps.
But he shows her a magic trick early on, which he thinks like woos her. But there's a scene where Dr. Kelley tells Göring that he does magic. And so Göring wants to see the magic. And so they have this scene and they're talking about abracadabra, and I thought that was so oddly handled.
The thing is, Russell Crowe is like a bright, shiny penny because his counterpoint fails so miserably. Because Russell Crowe, and that's what's also kind of weird about it. It's like Russell Crowe seems like he's having fun playing Hermann Göring.
And I thought he was good.
Yeah, he's not bad. He's got that accent. And, they set it up where he's actually speaking German, which I guess I have to... The movie...
Commended.
The movie has to be commended. It'll get an extra half star for me for that, is at least that we aren't straight out the gate just speaking accented English.
I liked Russell Crowe. I liked Michael Shannon. I liked Leo Woodall.
Except his monologue is so...
At the end, it feels tedious, but...
Get to the point, girl.
Okay. The most powerful part of the film is during the trial. We're told during the trial that no one's ever seen footage of the camps. And so we get maybe like 7 minutes of footage that's really hard to watch.
Yes. And
I don't know, based on the overall film, I don't think it deserved to kind of have that moment.
To have that footage, actually, because the rest of it... And when that footage ends, we see Rami Malek go off in a huff to Russell Crowe's cell, and it's like, you know what? I don't need any more of them after that. Like, I don't need to see any more.
Well, that scene, you had to have that scene because the film did such a poor job of orienting why this doctor is sympathizing with this person.
No, I get why you have to have the scene, but I'm like, I don't even need to see these two actors going head to head anymore because...
I was over it.
I was over it, yeah.
Okay, I knew that I didn't like this movie at the point when Dr. Kelley is screaming at someone that I've spent thousands of hours with Göring. I know him better than anyone. Baby, watching this movie, I thought they had spent like 3 sessions together. Thousands of hours?
That's also part of the script's faults, which is co-written by Jack L. High.
That's the biggest crime of this film to me, is that I thought this had taken place over like 3 or 4 days. And you're talking about you've been working with this man for thousands of hours?
It does not give the requisite weight to the subject matter, nor the span of time, the manpower, the effort that went into it. And, speaking of remnants, souvenirs from the concentration camps, like the Ed Gein story, right? There's a plot point where that one creepy little girl has all these pictures smuggled out of Germany. But for the most part, a lot of people were quite ignorant of what was happening as it was happening.
Right, and I think that should have been a highlight of the story.
Yeah, that there was people were able to kind of stick their heads in the sand for a long time.
I just think it's trying to say too many things, like I am right now. But after Dr. Kelley is discharged, he decides that he's going to try to help Justice Jackson. So he breaks into his quarters, which was unbelievable to me, and then hands him his book of notes. And that's when he says, thousands of hours, I know more than anyone knows about this man. Here's all my work. Why do you have this? I was going to write a book, but I feel guilty, so here you go. And basically, again, explaining like he's a narcissist. If you question him, if you phrase things a certain way, he'll tell on himself because he's too proud. And then Justice Jackson fails, and that's when Richard E. Grant's character then uses that to basically force him to admit that he wouldn't have changed anything Hitler did.
Mm-hmm. No regrets.
Therefore, you are guilty.
Je ne regrette rien, yeah.
I feel bad that, all this made me do was go watch a documentary on YouTube about the Nuremberg trials because I was so disappointed.
No, you should watch Judgment at Nuremberg. Monty Clift, Judy Garland, the great Marlena Dietrich, Maximilian Schell, Burt Lancaster. I mean, that cast is stacked. It's a very Stanley Kramer-ish social issue movie, but I mean, again, so much better than whatever is going on here. Why is Vanderbilt making films? Especially ones that he doesn't seem that he has quite a flair to tackle. But anyway.
What would you give Nuremberg?
1.5. I think Rami Malek is toxic in it.
I would give it didn't work for me, but I would give it 2 out of 5. Join us on Patreon and listen to our podcast. Bye.